Vietnam is an amazing and incredibly rewarding place to travel.
Vietnam has amazing food, coffee, friendly and fun people, incredible landscapes, and best of all, you won't break your bank when you travel there either.
This shouldn't be a destination where you're just trying to go for a couple of days and then hop to the next country.
Vietnam is a land of intricate beauty and rich culture. From the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Ha Long Bay to the picturesque and peaceful rice terraces of Sapa, northern Vietnam is sure to captivate and inspire.
Vietnam is one of the hottest travel destinations on the planet right now. It's cheap, it's unspoilt, and the food is spectacular.
Vietnam's probably one of those countries that doesn't get talked about enough. It's 100 million people in an area, I think it's only 20% larger than New Zealand. I think an average age of 30, so a relatively young population base. And they're really looking to see how they continue to grow.
Vietnam's international tourist numbers climbed by 43% last year, and from September it will be easier for us to get there.
I'm very pleased with VietJet's announcement that they will develop a new route to New Zealand, strengthening the connectivity and the people-to-people links between our two countries, which is a critical enabler of more growth and brings our people closer together.
But it's not just tourists who'll be getting on that flight.
The Prime Minister has arrived in Vietnam's capital, Hanoi, along with a business delegation of food, beverage and education heavy hitters. Vietnam is New Zealand's 14th biggest trading partner and one of Christopher Luxon has identified as a rising star.
It's just stepping up that tempo. We think there's a huge trade opportunity for both countries and both Prime Ministers are very focused on delivering against that.
I think it's hard to think of a place which is changing faster on the planet than Vietnam is.
It's playing an increasingly active role in our region. As a rising power, it's starting to shape the rules and order of the Indo-Pacific, and in many ways, how Vietnam and New Zealand look at our region is aligned.
This year, New Zealand and Vietnam mark 50 years of diplomatic relations, and things are ramping up a notch. Our two-way trade's grown by 123% since 2017. I'm Alexia Russell, and today on The Detail, the Prime Minister's handshaking tour and what he got done there. Plus, the New Zealanders helping Vietnamese farmers grow passion fruit as big as cricket balls.
So we started a project last year called Viet Fruit. It's kind of a 5-year project, effectively looking to help production and post-harvest.
More from Mark Piper soon. He's the Chief Executive of Plant and Food Research, and he was on the PM's trip. So was RNZ political reporter Giles Dexter.
Christopher Luxon has been very big on trying to hit up as many Indo-Pacific ASEAN partners as he can. He's 18 months into the job, or sort of 15 months into the job, he's still not been to Europe. His whole thing is just focusing on the backyard. And so Vietnam was always going to be one of those ones that he would go to at some point. And essentially it was just to renew some friendships. So the first political leader that visited New Zealand after Luxon became Prime Minister was the Prime Minister of Vietnam. And so it was a reciprocal gesture to go over, and they went to go sign a comprehensive strategic partnership, which is very corporate speak for basically a big paper fancy handshake.
Okay, so what does it mean in reality?
It's not quite. First there was a strategic partnership, then there was a comprehensive partnership, and now there's a comprehensive strategic partnership. And I mean, these are all things that go on in the background, right? These are all things that are done by MFAT diplomats over the course of many years, and then it's the Prime Minister of the day that gets to be the one that signs the dotted line and gets all the publicity and gets all the fancy handshake photos. But really, it's just a commitment to being really, really good mates.
Okay, so what do we get? What do we got now that we didn't have before the signing?
A lot of it is just about access, I guess. So the fact that there were lots of businesses on this trip with the PM, and there were some businesses who were saying to me that they really want to get into the Vietnamese market to do what they do. So one of them was like a medical data, health data company, and they were there
to be able to do these big health data infrastructure projects, you need to be working very closely with the government. You've got to be trusted by the government, and I think the strategic cooperation partnership will be a good platform for that.
Without the partnership, the Vietnamese government would not give them the time of day. But by the government signing this comprehensive strategic partnership, this big old handshake, it meant that like, oh, okay, so we trust New Zealand and we'll let these guys in. And so this health data company will be able to secure a contract with the Vietnamese government that they would not have otherwise been able to get. Doesn't really give us much in the realms of trade or defence or things like that. It's just a big paper handshake. We're the 10th nation to get one, which is in of itself a big deal, but we're the 7th in the last 3 years. They are really keen to sign these deals with a whole bunch of different countries, and they are completely agnostic over the ideologies of the different countries they're signing them with. Right. So they've signed one with the US, and then they've signed one with China. They've signed one with France. Given Vietnam's history with France, it's we just got beaten to it by the Aussies. Australia got one last year, so it's kind of damn it.
Niggle.
Yeah, but they are signing them left, right, and centre. So we can sit there and be like, oh, we feel very special, but I think there is a sense of any country ringing up right now, being like, hey, you guys want a comprehensive strategic partnership? And they're going, thank you. Oh, New Zealand. Yeah, sure, guys. Yeah. Welcome. Hi. They are signing a lot of these deals, and Vietnam is all too painfully aware of what it's like to choose sides.
Yes.
And right now they are not. They don't want to choose sides, so they want to sign deals with everyone, so that they come out on. Should the worst happen, they come out on top somehow.
But we have a trade deficit with Vietnam, don't we? We take a lot of their mechanical equipment.
Yeah, I mean, well, Vietnam is what's known as a rising tiger economy. So you've got those Asian tiger economies like South Korea and Singapore that had experienced rapid growth, and Vietnam is on its up. I think it's the country that's experiencing the most growth in the world at the moment. So getting in there now is great, because when they get more and more and more growth, we'll be able to hit them up and go, hey, remember us?
Yeah, so is this like China, as you get the flourishing middle class, the demand for more luxury products, which is where we fit in with wine and all the rest of it?
Yeah. So our main exports there are those kinds of things. I mean, Fonterra's got in on the ground there, Zespri's got in on the ground there. It was kind of strange driving around, that you'd be driving through these quite impoverished neighborhoods, and then all of a sudden there's a Prada shop or a Vuitton shop or the most expensive watch I've ever seen in my life. I'm not entirely sure who's buying those. Maybe it was trying to get the tourists, but getting in on the ground now is great for New Zealand, in that we can hit them up later on. But we're all already exporting a whole bunch. We're already doing a whole bunch of stuff with fruit and dairy as tastes change over there. There was this kind of rather bizarre event with the Prime Minister where he turned up and cooked with some milk, and there was a lecture that we basically sat through of the changing tastes and how people's palates are changing, and here's how New Zealand can get involved in that. It's all it's very a rising market that you just want to get a foot in the door in, I guess.
Yeah, so traditionally Vietnamese food is that coffee made with sweetened condensed milk,
rocket fuel,
and a lot of chicken.
Yeah,
and
fresh veg, things like that. But they're increasingly changing to wanting dairy in their diet, and because the agriculture wasn't set up for it, they need to import it. And who better to do that than New Zealand? So we're sending a whole bunch of milk products over there.
In terms of what Vietnam has to offer us, where can we make some gains?
Students. Their main thing is students. So Vietnam, as far as their exports, quote unquote, is they are one of the biggest markets for sending students overseas. Yeah. Part of the business delegation was a whole bunch of different universities and polytechs coming along to secure deals to get more students. I think we signed a whole bunch of different scholarship deals as well. The way that we get money from Vietnam is them sending their students to New Zealand, and our unis raising their heads above the parapet to just be we are the place that you want to come to is difficult. But with that partnership, it will be a lot easier getting students over here. I think it's India, China, and Vietnam. They're the three big markets for sending students to New Zealand, and we've historically made it quite difficult for them to be here. So that partnership and the deals that they signed while they're over there will make it a lot easier to get students here.
Luxon says his trip was a success. Was it?
Of course he does. These trips, it's like I was saying earlier, it's this is all the work that people from MFAT, career diplomats do behind the scenes, and then the Prime Minister gets to be the one that goes over there and does the big handshake.
He's not bad at it, though.
He is. He is not. He's not. He's a man unleashed overseas. It's very strange. Like, when you're interviewing him at Postcab or Caucus Run and he gets a little bit tetchy with you overseas, the man cannot say no. I mean, all prime ministers do this when they go overseas. Ardern and Hipkins were the same, but like Luxon's got this other level that he will just not say no to anything. He's not afraid of eating on camera. As I'm not going to apologise for the photo I took of him.
For your shocking
I'm not going to
photo.
apologise for that photo. But he'll jump on a moped. He'll give it an old vroom vroom. He'll do all these kinds of things overseas that he wouldn't do back here because his job when you're on these trips is to be New Zealand's salesperson.
No matter how much ammunition it might give the scribes afterwards.
Yeah. It's. Sorry, I was just looking at the photo.
We're just looking at the photo. What is he eating? He's got a gob full of mashed potato or
mollusks.
Mollusks.
Mollusks. But yeah, that's their job, right? And John Key was very good at it as well, and Jacinda Ardern was very good at it. Is that you go overseas and you sell New Zealand. That is your one job.
So all the talk about it and the comprehensive strategic partnership agreement and the pitches, like you say, and all the rest of it. Does it translate to a more thriving relationship and financial opportunities for both countries?
It will. I mean, there's also the strategic element of it. The second word in that is getting a mate in that region. Like the Indo-Pacific is, as anyone will say, is increasingly contested, and having a partner there that you can sort of rely on. We want as many of those partnerships and they want them too. He went to a ASEAN speech while he was there. New Zealand's not an ASEAN member, but we're a partner of ASEAN. And it was probably the most definitive he's ever been on strategic issues. He basically went up and called out any other nation that is choosing power over the rules-based order.
The Indo-Pacific is simultaneously the engine room for global economic activity and growth, and it's also a potential hotspot for geopolitical tension. And military expansion and modernisation is occurring at a scale we haven't seen in this region for more than half a century. And as militaries modernise, I think we needed to have a constant commitment to transparency.
He wouldn't name any nation in particular. You never go that far.
Phil Goff.
Sorry, Phil.
Phil Goff has been unceremoniously sacked as UK High Commissioner after having a crack at US President Donald Trump.
He went in. He was basically just there like, look, there's a lot of countries right now that aren't playing by the rules, and he was trying to be like, well, New Zealand is and does and will, and you can count on us, guys.
Easy for us to say. We have to play by the rules because the rules protect us.
Yeah.
So we haven't got much else protecting us.
At some point or another, someone decided that those were the rules, and we'll be like, yeah.
I think we probably helped with
we drafted
rules.
them.
Has Vietnam got much of a military? Do we have any military connections?
Yeah, I mean, insofar as like the Vietnamese defence setup, I mean, the military was on show wherever you went. I don't know whether it was just for us. If so, I feel very honoured. Otherwise, there was a lot of shows of power, like guards of honour and that kind of stuff. I mean, they are one of only two Marxist-Leninist states still going in Asia. I think the other one's Laos. And so that's all on display. One of the really interesting things, I guess, about Vietnam is how they've created the economic conditions for overseas businesses to thrive while still being like resolutely Marxist. Like the difference between like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh was incredible. Like Ho Chi Minh just felt like a big kind of like a Singapore or a Taiwan, one of those big cities that's attracted a whole bunch of foreign capital, while at the same time you are constantly reminded of the fact that this is a communist state. Right. There's hammers and sickles everywhere, but also ginormous tower blocks with multinational capitalism rife. It was, yeah.
Is Vietnam trying to work its way out of a post-COVID situation, or what's their economic stability like at the moment?
The growth they're experiencing is rapid. They are very rapidly coming from a low to middle economy. And so they are building everything they can. They are the country that's experiencing the most, I think, 7% of growth.
And is that something New Zealand can help with?
Yeah. I mean, that's the purpose of these deals is you go in and you go, what do you need? I mean, the reality of any of these kinds of deals is that New Zealand needs them more than they need them. Like,
in what way? Explain that to me.
Well, you go and do these handshakes and you go and sign these deals. It's all about convincing a country of the ways that they need you. But despite Luxon saying, like, oh, we're at the centre of things in the Indo-Pacific, like, with all these ASEAN nations and the rapid growth that they're having, they don't actually need us. But the success of these deals is convincing of the ways that they do. So like students or fruit or things like that, things that we can give them that, it's marketing 101.
And that's exactly what plant and food research scientists are doing in Vietnam. Here's Mark Piper talking about the Viet Fruit Project, currently concentrating on passion fruit.
It's kind of a 5-year project, effectively looking to help production and post-harvest, so after passion fruit's been picked. So increase productivity, so how do they get more off the land? Resilience, so insects or other diseases that might affect passion fruit, as well as what happens after it's picked. And then training to kind of make sure that continues. A lot of passion fruit in most countries of the world actually, but in Vietnam is smallholder farmers, so a lot around education.
And what's in it for us? I presume we've got people over there doing all this. How does the quid pro quo work?
Yeah, great question, and a really valid question. So you may or may not know, a few years ago we did a project with dragon fruit in Vietnam from 2013 to 2021. That was, again, sort of similar lens. So dragon fruit's one of their largest crops in Vietnam. We did a lot of work around taste and texture, resistance to different diseases. And on the back of, so that was done primarily on the fact that we have a great trade relationship with Vietnam, and as part of our free trade agreement, we do offer technical support to help with trade. But actually, that Vietnam one we did on dragon fruit, we also have brought those dragon fruit back to New Zealand and into Northland and have a partnership with a company called Venture Fruit, which is part of TNG Global, to market those around the world. So started off as a purely how do we support the people in Vietnam as part of our free trade agreement and being a good partner, and has evolved into something that has potential commercial upside for New Zealand, with Northland being a warmer climate, subtropical. We can actually grow them up there. And so passion fruit, potential the same.
Oh, great. Music to my ears. I love passion fruit, but it's so expensive here.
It's expensive, and the ones I was in, obviously, as you know, I was in Vietnam recently, and the ones in Vietnam were larger and, in my opinion, a little bit sweeter than what I've seen here. Passion fruit is a pretty small crop in Vietnam at the moment. They're hoping to increase it for global sale as well. But yeah, they were quite a different passion fruit than what I've seen here.
How many people have you got up there helping with the passion fruit project?
So we don't have anyone sort of permanently on the ground. We send people back and forth as needed. A lot of it's around education. How do we sort of train people? So we'll put people up for short periods of time. We have one of our team permanently based. She happens to live in Cambodia. So she does a lot of the work through that region. We do projects through a lot of Asia. But we will send the right people at the right time, depending on what we're focused on. And we work alongside local organisations up there. So we do quite a bit of work alongside, I guess, some of the local research partners, so that they've got the skills as well, and they've also got some excellent people up there.
How has that been received?
In Vietnam?
Yeah,
very well. So we had last year, when the Vietnamese Prime Minister visited New Zealand, I think he was here for just over 2 days, and he spent just over an hour with us at Plant and Food Research. So he prioritised us as one of the few things he could see in his short trip to New Zealand. So yeah, look, really well received. And for us, our scientists learn quite a bit because they're working with some different crops, with some different diseases that possibly aren't in New Zealand. We can learn a lot from that. But they also really love the fact that they get to help small grower, smallholder farmers improve their livelihoods as well. If you talk to our people that are working in it, they're really buzzing when they come back.
That sounds amazing. What's the scope of the work? Do you get into things like genetic splicing, or is it really about good agriculture practices?
Yeah, so these ones are more around good agriculture practices. The dragon fruit one, we did breeding, traditional breeding, and created 3 new variants, a little bit sweeter dragon fruit, which I happen to quite like, but they're quite a mild taste. So we've made one that's a little bit redder and a little bit sweeter. But on this one, yeah, the main focus at this stage is around disease, climate change impacts, and productivity. So both from a on orchard, but also post orchard lens. So a bit less around breeding, although that will be something we look at because breeding can actually help with all of those things.
And Mark, are you able to make a comparison between New Zealand's agriculture industry and Vietnam's? I mean, how far advanced is the work that they are doing?
Really different. So it's quite a hard one to compare in that they are tropical climates. So when we were in Ho Chi Minh City recently, it was 33 degrees and quite humid, versus Hanoi, it was about 18 degrees, so quite a long country with different climates through it. But it's kind of at the bottom of the Mekong Delta. It has very strong nutrients and very high temperature. So they breed quite different fruits. Their number one fruit for export is durian, which most New Zealanders are not fans of. It has quite a strong smell.
It really smells, yeah.
It does smell. I might quite like it, but I can understand why people don't. Dragon fruit is second or third, whereas for us, obviously, kiwi fruit and apples are our big ones in horticulture. So quite different from that perspective. Quite a lot of independent growers, so quite a lot of smallholder farmers in Vietnam, whereas New Zealand is quite a mix from sort of large scale through to smallholder growers in New Zealand. And they've got some really good research capabilities up there. Companies, research owned by local government. They probably don't have anything the scale of something like Plant and Food with nearly 100 years of expertise. So we work in quite well together. They sit in the middle of Asia, so a lot of export. China's their number one market for things like durian, whereas from New Zealand, we export all over the world. So some real similarities, but some quite stark differences as well.
And eventually one day we could see passion fruit farms in Northland and growing cricket-sized passion fruit?
Who knows? When we look at kind of what could happen with the climate, and I don't think anyone can truly predict it, we are looking at what happens if it's warmer or cooler in parts of New Zealand and what could be grown. So certainly Northland, which is already a warmer climate, we've been looking at things like subtropicals. We've even been toying with the idea of could you grow things like mango up there. Again, as a research organisation, we don't grow anything. We're not a sales company. So how can we support people that are looking at these new crops and how we not so much diversify for change, but diversify for opportunity in New Zealand with different crops?
That's it for today. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and New Zealand On Air. This episode was engineered by Mark Chesterman and produced by Gwen McClure. Thanks to Giles Dexter and Mark Piper. I'm Alexia Russell. Ka kite.